from one party or another coming out of the conflagration in Ferguson, Missouri. So, folks, stay tuned and keep your eyes on what's going on with that. What's going on in Ferguson, folks, very easily could have been what could have happened with the whole Trayvon Martin thing. And luckily there, cooler heads prevailed, and they let the court cases go through. Some people didn't like the verdict. Some people did. Well, justice system chose what it did. Just like the Jesse Ventura against Chris Kyle thing. I thought it was really not too cool to sue the widow when the man you were upset with was dead and couldn't defend himself. And that's my whole issue with that. If the verdict had been the same with Chris Kyle alive in that particular case, I probably wouldn't have liked that one either. But to me, it would have been a proper and fair trial. And I just don't think that Chris Kyle was given a fair shake because, well, he was not able to be alive and testify and respond and ask his own questions in his own defense. So that's my whole take on that thing. Anyway, let's go back to trying to bring a little bit of levity at the same time seriousness. Well, some people have their kids going back to school starting as early as today. Other people have their kids going to some kind of orientation or registration or something else, going on this week or today. And some kids are already back in school. Some are going back next week, and some in 2-3 weeks. So it is the back to school time already, folks, and it's only the 14th of August. Sheesh. I remember my dad telling me when he was a kid, he pretty much got out of school on Memorial Day, then didn't go back to school until Labor Day, and now they're going to school all the way until the middle of June and starting back up in the middle of August, so that summer break is becoming shorter and shorter. Of course, because we're no longer in agrarian society as a general whole here in the United States. I guess they don't need as many kids out there working and then pulling in the harvest at the end of the growing season like we used to. So there's that to consider. But anyway, somebody had reposted came into my timeline over at Facebook, an older article about an incident that happened in early June, causing a kid to get suspended over something that was utterly ridiculous. And I didn't look at the date at first, and I was going to jump all over it and do further research. And then when I looked at the date, I said, oh, never mind. But it prompted me to write a little bit more of a tongue-in-cheek article instead, kind of looking back at some of the ridiculous suspensions, etc., that have gone on over the past year or two, dealing with our public schools across the nation. And over on BuzzPro, I have posted it, and it's 8 things to make sure your kid does not bring to school this year, especially on their first day. So I'm just going to give you some brief excerpts, and you can go and read the actual story for yourself and hopefully get a laugh or two out of it. Some of it is a little bit tongue-in-cheek and snarky. And let me know what you think down at the bottom. I know my bosses over at BuzzPro are always interested in comments, whether they agree or disagree, just as long as they're in good taste. So please do. You can call me a dumb poo-poo head all day long. Just do so with some class, tact, and imagination. Too many people can just say dumb poo-poo head, and that really is not very creative. And others using a bunch of obscenities, folks. Find a more imaginative way to express yourself. Come on, entertain me. I challenge you. Anyway, to my story, as I am challenged to entertain you. These are the kind of 8 categories of things to make sure your kid leaves at home when he heads off to school. Number 1 is any item that could be even nicknamed as a gun. That includes toaster pastries, because they can be chewed up. That, of course, would include chewing gum. Somebody may misinterpret the M sound for an N sound. When then one kid asks for a piece of gum, they might hear gun. So leave it at home. It also includes hot glue guns for art classes and crafts and stuff. Any kind of water pistol or squirt gun or a Nerf projectile launcher. Well, folks, your kids shouldn't be bringing their toys to school anyway. It also includes staple guns, otherwise known as staplers, because they fire projectile. And the Lord's forbid, your child may actually want to fasten together the pages of their book report or other research paper with a staple gun. Another thing is any metal object, because nowadays they can all be fashioned into some sort of improvised weapon. That includes, remember the wooden rulers that we all grew up with? They had that nice metal straight edge on there, that when you had to draw a line, there usually wouldn't be any nicks or dents in it unless you were misusing it, and you can draw a nice straight line. Well, nowadays those are not allowed because it has the metal straight edge. It can be used as a weapon. Instead, you have to get the plastic rulers that chip before you even use them. Try to draw a straight line, and it looks like a graph of the the Dow Jones Industrial Average over the past 3 months. Up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. So that's now another thing that you can't send your child to school with. Do not use... Teachers seem to have a problem with devices used to hold papers together because they don't want you to bring paper clips, or the kids to bring paper clips either. Why? Because you can unbend the paper clip and then you have this little protruding piece of metal that you can use to stab your fellow classmates. Yeah, because paper clips could become a weapon. Or they could be folded and you can use a rubber band and shoot them at somebody. Ooh. No paper clips. So no paper clips, no staples, and no hot glue guns. So nothing to keep your pages stuck together so that you can make sure the teacher gets all of it and doesn't end up missing 3 pages out of the middle because they drop it and lose it. Yeah. In fact, no sharp objects either. It doesn't matter if it's metal or not. Do not send your child to school with any knife or fork or spork, including the plastic ones. No nail files or nail clippers. And pretty soon now, teachers are going to finally realize that even pieces of paper can be used as sharp objects. You don't believe me? Have you ever gotten a paper cut? That hurts, doesn't it? Well, there you go. So next, loose leaf paper is going to be banned because somebody could use the edge of it to cut somebody else. Watch. Teachers may not have thought about it yet. And of course, medications. And I'm not going to go into deep depth about this. This one's kind of a touchy subject for many of us. But pretty much, when you bring your emergency medications to your school nurse, some school nurses don't really care. You just fill out your form and check your blocks so that their records look good. But if your kid needs the medicine, doesn't mean they're actually going to do anything. Now, some will, some won't. So it's not every single one, but it has happened. There was, I think it was last year, one child had an asthma attack, and the school nurse refused to give the child their asthma medication, and the child ended up dying because of it. So, watch that out. Other things. Number 5 on my list of things is imagination. If your kid goes with imagination and ability to look at things in their own way and kind of create, not a good thing. They're not going to be able to conform then. And then, of course, any kind of patriotic clothing. You guys have all heard the various stories regarding that. Kids getting suspended because they wore a T-shirt with an American flag depicted on it on Cinco de Mayo, a non-U.S. holiday. And they also, for wearing a shirt that supports the U.S. Constitution and the Second Amendment or the First Amendment or whatever, kids were suspended for wearing those. So, make sure your kids are in their proper little school uniforms and don't even have on a t-shirt underneath their designated school shirt that may show something patriotic. You may want to also consider whether or not you're going to send your kid to school with a lunch. While school lunches, we all know, are junk and the kids won't eat them. They claim they're healthy, and if you really look at the ingredients, they're not. Pink slime and lots of gluten. Not good for your kid. But schools have deemed their lunch ladies to now be the nutrition police, deputized by Queen Obama herself. So your kids' lunches are subject to inspection, and if it doesn't meet up to their standards, you will be forced to pay for a lunch for your child, and that lunch may not be very healthy, especially if your kid has special dietary considerations, things like celiac or a soy allergy, or any number of diseases that can be controlled or mitigated through diet. Well, it doesn't matter to the school. You will be forced to go with what they deem healthy. So, lots of soybeans and wheat gluten and pink slime, and enjoy that. Which they won't be able to eat unless they're using nothing but a plastic spoon, because, well, sporks have those sharp tines. And then, of course, the last thing you want to make sure your child leaves at home is any form of independent thought or critical thinking skill or analytical ability. God forbid they know how to do some research and gather some facts and actually make up their own mind on something. It might go against the agenda that they're trying to indoctrinate your child with at the school. And we can't have that. Not in our public schools. You're not conforming. You're going with the facts, those silly facts. So, there you go, folks. There's my quick rundown on my last article over at BuzzPo magazine. So go ahead and read it. I've got some snark and tongue-in-cheek comments in there, which are different from those I put on the radio. So you may enjoy it. Then again, you may say, you already got the movie version, so why bother? Well, go ahead and click on it anyway. Make my bosses happy. My bosses are happy, I'm happy. And speaking of that, it's time, folks, to segue out of our lighthearted stuff. There's some more serious issues going on. Well, if you remember yesterday, I talked about the fact that they were going to send in about a company size, about 130 ground troops into northern Iraq to ensure that the humanitarian supplies were actually getting to the Yzzidis. Well, now, Obama's kind of backstepping. He's turning around saying, no, I'm not going to put boots on the ground. I talked with the Pentagon. That's a first. Talking with them before making a decision. Ooh, your military experts, you're talking to them before you make a decision? What a concept. But after talking with the Pentagon, it was determined that there are not enough people in danger. There's not enough Yzzidis left to warrant doing any kind of a direct rescue operation, sending any kind of force in to kind of protect these people and keep them from being, wiped out in genocide, because there's too few left. Come on. They will send an EPA SWAT unit out to a farm in California because there's some owl just pooped out an egg in a tree in an apple orchard or something. So the SWAT team will go out there over an owl because there's so few of them left. But they won't save a small group of human beings facing genocide. Come on, folks. If you don't see the complete hypocrisy in that, then you're blind. And having been in Iraq and been up in the area where the Yzidis live, and having had a Kurdish to English interpreter who was a Yzidi, they're really good people. They need to learn how to shower a little bit more often, but they're good people. And that showering more often, it's not a racist or anything. Their religion actually holds water as sacred and their most holy of people are only allowed to bathe like once a year or something like that. So bathing is considered a sacred act that should be done sparingly, and a waste of water if done too often, which is a sin to them. So, like I said, the one that served with me, he could have taken a shower a little bit more often because he got ripe very quickly and stayed that way for a little bit longer than was comfortable for us. But other than that, he was a really good interpreter, really good person to have around us. Helped us out a lot, especially helped me to understand his religion, and we had to deal with people of that faith. So, but still, even if you don't agree with that religion, does that mean that all the followers of that religion need to be wiped out simply because we're going to stand by and do nothing? All it takes for evil to exist is for one good man to stand by and do nothing. And here we are, the good people, standing by and doing what amounts to nothing. So, but I just read that article on the Yzzidi intervention and the Pentagon leakage. You can go and read in detail and get all the nasty thought processes and quotes and stuff. But it came from McClatchy, D.C., blog or online news agency run by, I'm not exactly sure who runs it, but the writer was Nancy A. Youssef and Anita Kumar were the writers of this article. I guess they did their research. And it's over at www.mcclatchy, that's MCCLATCHY, and then DC as in District of Columbia, and that's all one word. So you type that up and then .com and then go and look for the article. Really interesting. Makes your head spin on wondering what the thought process coming out of our political leaders in the executive branch, where the heck their head is at, because it dang sure is not sitting in reality, is it, folks? But then again, if you go over to BuzzPo, the soundbite I was going to play earlier, it's embedded in a good article. Contains 65 lies and about a 12-minute long clip. So go ahead and watch that video, and kind of makes you wonder, what the hidden agenda is, or maybe not so hidden now. And of course, right beneath that, to kind of brighten up your day as well, is an article that covers a video that BuzzFeed had compiled, of all people. And BuzzFeed does some good videos here and there. Well, over at BuzzPo, we are sharing their creativity and letting everybody know how much we appreciate the video they put up. And it's check out all the weird little things all couples do. So it's one to look at, especially if you're in a long-term relationship, cohabitating, or if you're married. You'll be sitting there and going, "Honey, that's us." My wife and I were both rolling this morning as we checked it out. Had to check it out twice because we didn't want to wake the little ones who were listening to it over headphones. So I got to play it twice and hear it once though. But funny. So, once again, bringing things up in levity. Now, I'm going to segue back to good old St. Louis, because I got some Second Amendment stuff to talk about here, and that's kind of a good place to start, because evidently, this is also a BuzzPo article, gun sales in the general St. Louis area, legal, lawful gun sales, have spiked since Sunday. Gee, I wonder why. Maybe because people actually see the value in being able to defend themselves. All the cops are tied up, fighting against looters in Ferguson. So you kind of need to take things in your own hands to make sure you and your family are protected. So that's what's going on. And this is an article by Steve Ale, who has done a couple of Second Amendment related articles recently, although he normally covers other things. Eric Reed over at BuzzPo writes a lot of the Second Amendment type stuff, and he's